Ladies, to the Boca Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Holritz. Happy Monday to those of you that may be watching this on Monday or live streaming with us. Welcome to the show. Make sure you take advantage of the opportunity to ask questions, comment. You can send a funny emoji or two if you'd like to, but join the conversation. Take advantage of the opportunity to ask our guests questions. And that's really probably the main benefit of the live streams. And so anytime you have the opportunity to take advantage of that, please do. Follow us at Boca Podcast, B-O-K-E-H Podcast on Instagram. And you can keep up to date with the upcoming live stream schedule, usually 1 or 2 episodes a week. All right. Well, on that note, I want to introduce brand new guests to the show today. Welcome, Vic and Lily. I really appreciate you all doing the show today with me.
Thank you so much. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. Super excited to be here.
From Italy. So make sure to grab a glass of wine.
I should have done that, actually. I have a nice bottle waiting for me in my cupboard. Yeah, I should have done that. That would have been brilliant, actually. Well,
no matter what time is it.
That's exactly it. I love that. Whereabouts in Italy are you speaking from right now?
We are located just outside Lake Como. If you don't know where is Lake Como, is between Milan and Switzerland. Is where George Clooney hanging out during summertime.
I would say we're neighbors, but that's just for the story, right? Yeah.
Hey, it sounds good anyway. Yeah. I have yet to. I spent a little bit of time in Italy, just a brief amount of time in Rome. Went out to Tuscany and Florence, and kind of made my way around for about a week or so. I was out there for a friend's wedding. This is about a decade ago. But I've not had the opportunity to go to Lake Como yet. And that is definitely on my bucket list. I want to go spend some time there. The fact that you get to live in that area is awesome. Have you been there for very long?
I born here. So
wow. Okay.
I am it's Lake Como.
So it's just
nice.
Become
it's
old
like the
hat.
Italian dream.
It's okay. But I start to appreciate more when of course I moved to US, and then is where you miss home and mom and food, and so that's one of the reasons why we came back.
Well, I have to say this just as a side note. One of my favorite experiences about being in Italy was the approach to eating meals, dinner in particular, where 2-3 hours seems to be commonplace. It was certainly commonplace when I was there. We're not rushed. We're going to take our time. Nope. We're going to enjoy food, and not enjoy food the way that a lot of Americans do here with insane portions, a little bit at a time. Very, very good food at that. But the combination of conversation and good food and some wine, and 2-3 hours later, you're finally finishing up. But I think it's just such a wonderful element of that culture.
I think so. It's like taking the time to enjoy the life, the present, that we are always waiting for that holiday to go to enjoy the time. Yeah. But here in our culture, you realize that you can even enjoy a meal, a lunch. It's not even only during Sunday. It can be every day. Sit, eat, speak, gossip, drink of wine, glass of wine, and that's what I'm trying to do with Vic. He's American, and so it's
The pace of life here is one of the greatest charms. It's taking the time to be present in those moments, and I can really appreciate that, especially being an American living abroad. It's that quality of life is what we were chasing, and we found it here.
But you guys in US are great for business. Let's say that because we like to talk, and you take an action, a mindset.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting element to that conversation around taking time to eat, it was fascinating to me, is you think about kind of at least the stereotype of Italian food, lots of pasta and bread and the meats and cheeses and so forth, and of course wine. And so the question that I asked this incredible individual who was kind of our guide for the week while we were there, and a friend of the groom for whose wedding we were there for, my friend Kenny Kim, actually, who's been on this podcast probably multiple times now. But he was saying, I said, it's very interesting to me. Like we think about these types of food in American culture. You think about these types of food and it's immediately, it's something that's going to make me fat. It's unhealthy for me. But one of the things he explained to me was that, of course, generally speaking, Italians are walking quite a bit to the various locations in town.
True.
So they're naturally getting exercise there. The other interesting thing to me, again, is that rather than these massive portions, we're eating smaller pieces of, or smaller bits of food along the way. And then the other thing that I was just thinking on is, there is this natural relaxation that comes from connecting with other human beings, right? And so when your body is feeling good and healthy, and it just naturally processes food so much better. So the combination of those elements is like you get to have both good food, healthy conversation, healthy body. It's best of all worlds.
And I tell you another secret. We don't eat pasta every day. I mean, we do, but there are so much more than pasta, pizza, and wine. Once you come here, you go in different region. Oh my God, we could spend 1 hour talking about that.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
sure.
it's the next episode.
Next episode, let's talk about
the food
why to come in Italy and why there's not only pasta.
Well, we should do the next episode live there at Lake Como. Like, I need to come actually visit. We'll do an in-person podcast episode. That would be even better.
Business expense. Love it.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, speaking of business, I just want to highlight your photography business here real quick for everybody. So for those of you that are light streaming, you can see this, of course, on your screen. But Lilly, Lilly, Red, RED.IT is the website. And immediately, I have to say, I don't know that I've ever seen a website that looks quite like this before. It's not just beautiful imagery, and props to you all for the gorgeous work, but the graphic design innate to the site as well is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, it captures you visually, and you want to spend time just kind of digging through the details. So beautifully, beautifully done. And then your Instagram as well, Elizabeth, so ELISABETTA, and then Lilly, LILLYRED on Instagram. Of course, we'll link to both of these in the show notes at bocapodcast.com for those of you listening, and make sure you go check it out and follow Vic and Lilly as well. So let's kind of jump into it's my typical introductory question here, because this podcast is ultimately about helping photographers build sustainable businesses, i.e. businesses that they're certainly able to generate a living from, but not get burnt out in the process. And, based on our conversation about Italian culture, this very much plays in. How do you go about, is there a big idea or principle that has enabled you all to build and run this successful photography business, destination wedding photography business, but also maintain a life, some freedom and flexibility along the way?
Yeah,
Go for it.
What I love about what we do is that we're in two people, So we have Lily, who's inherently the creative artist, and we have me, who is definitely not the creative artist. So I get to manage some of the strategy and operations. And being able to split those roles and responsibilities, I think, is so huge. When I see other photographers as solopreneurs, my heart goes out to them because I don't know how they're able to manage both sets of responsibilities and tasks and the challenges that come with being that one person behind the camera.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, we are husband and wife, and we need to find out also the time to live as a couple. So it's it's a big thing, and unfortunately, from the outside, people don't see, because oh my God, you're so lucky. This is such a perfect life. We need to, in order to live this perfect life, we have to be able to understand our role as a creative person and as a strategy business dragon. Let's say that.
A dragon. I think that's a new term on this podcast. I like it.
A dragon. He's not stopping. He's not scary, and I'm learning from him. That's one of the things that I never had in my life, because we are artists, and we are scared to take a step forward, to be judged, to not have the right clients. Those are the things that are always being with me until I met Vic. And
yeah. So what we're able to do really well is be able to delegate. That's such a strong point in a business, because businesses typically aren't built on one person. At some point, if you want to scale and grow, you're going to rely on a team, collaborators, other industry professionals to help level up your work. And so with ourselves, we do, as we grow and scale and as we get bigger, we do delegate work and bring on other people to help us grow, because we're just not able to do everything by ourselves.
Which sounds easy, but for me, for example, delegate is something that I have to give to someone else, something that I can do. I know I can do better, and they don't understand me. I don't want. So I am the one that is struggle a lot to delegate. But this year, I say to myself, listen, do you really want to take a step forward? You must delegate. And I feel like the way to move forward on that is like training the people that you're going to delegate your work. So you cannot expect to give the job, okay, you do it. Oh, okay, you're not doing right now. Is a process. Wow, I'm learning that. But it's,
Me too, though. Me too. And of course, the irony is I own a company, Photographers Edit, is producing this show today, by the way, but a post-production company. And it is all about delegation, right? But to your very point, Lily, probably the biggest challenge for photographers, once they move past the idea of the fact that they're going to spend a little bit of cash to delegate their editing work, they realize they can make money on the other side of that. The other biggest challenge, though, is that process of giving up control. And then part of that process is learning how to communicate effectively.
Yes.
And that's where I can still relate. I'm lucky enough to work with a wonderful team. But even now, 15, 16 years into business, I'm still learning how to best communicate what it is that I want. And you're absolutely right. You can't just expect somebody to read your mind and know exactly what you want. You have to figure out how to communicate what it is that you're looking for.
And it takes time. It takes
does.
time. It's the things that I'm learning now. But when I see a little result, for me, it's like, wow, I have like this of time to spend on the next project. So I can see it's rewarding. It's time. Time is something that you cannot buy anywhere. So
yeah, that's it. It's time at the end of the day. And I'm so glad that you highlight that. The reality is we technically can run our business on our own, but it will limit two things. It will limit scalability. You talked about if we want to be able to grow, it's going to be so much more difficult as an individual business owner or even a couple working together to be able to grow that business, because at some point, we can only do so much work. We can only handle so much, juggle so many tasks. So it will certainly limit growth, potential for growth. And the other thing it limits is, again, that freedom, that flexibility that we can have as business owners if we're running our business intentionally and intelligently. And part of that process is delegation, learning how to delegate. So I'm really glad that you highlight this. This is a great way to start off the conversation.
It's real life. It's real life.
Yeah.
It's real things that are happening now. And if you don't delegate, you're going to explode.
That's it.
Mindset. Yeah, it's shifting from being that photographer always behind the camera to thinking like as a leader, as a CEO. And so it depends on your goals and your vision. And for everyone, they don't want to be that business owner. They want to be the creative artist and photographer. So it really takes a mindset shift too, and understanding what your goals and visions are. It's not for everyone, but for some people, that's the path to growth, and that's what we've chosen.
Love it. I love it. And I love how you summed that up too. Well, I want to talk about your photography brand. And of course, the main topic at hand today, which is destination wedding photography. And it's honestly not something we've spent a whole lot of time on here on the podcast. So I'm glad that we have this opportunity for conversation, and even better to get the perspective of you two having built this just beautiful business. Just to give everybody listening in, before we get into kind of the practical application, how can wedding photographers listening in build a destination wedding business? Can you give just a very brief backstory to how you've gotten to this place as a photography brand?
I start? You want me to start?
Sure.
So I jump into photography by chance. When I met him, I was scared actually to photograph wedding because I thought it was a very boring thing to photograph. I used to grow up and looking the album of my parents. They were like the family photo, the kiss, and blah blah blah. So I always said to myself, I'll never be a wedding photographer. Until you try and you see and you explore, you think you can be like, actually, I realized that being a wedding photographer, I can be very creative because the couple put all the trust on you. So you turn to be like a creative director somehow, like you choose the light, you choose the background, you choose the style. So this is where I bring a bit of my fashion background into weddings, and I love it so much. But let's say in San Francisco in 2016, I get my first year of wedding season. So I was based in San Francisco. I love it. That was my job. But when I think there is something inside me, probably because I'm a creative person, that as soon as I reach a goal, I need to get into something else. Yeah. So I say, okay, I'm a wedding photographer. I love my couples, but what's next? plus in my case, I was living in US, but I start to miss Italy, and I need to understand it. I want to understand, okay, how can I go back at home and work? Because, it's a beautiful way to travel, photographing a wedding. Destination weddings. So it was a kind of necessity for me, plus exploring something new. So I didn't know how to do it. And I explained my problem to Vic, and he said to me, write it down on a piece of paper. What is your ideal wedding? Where? Who is the couple? What they're wearing?
And the best part was that description didn't match any of the work she was doing, which is a great epitome moment, right?
Yes. We realized that this is not what I'm doing now, but this is what I want to do in the future.
Yeah.
So I pack a bag, I put together a team, and I flew to Mexico, in a small little town called Valladolid, and there I create content that when I saw the photos for the first time, and I went like, okay, that's the couple that I want to see in my future. So that was 2017, and I spent 1 year creating content in Italy, in Mexico, wherever I want
around
to.
The world. It was
around
like
the
an
world.
unfiltered year. It's like anything that came to mind and was a vision. I think it was just go and do it.
Yeah.
You have this chance opportunity now, and strike while you have it.
But yeah, it was like scary, because on the other side, I had less inquiry of those normal weddings that I used to photograph. So inside me, I didn't know if I was doing something right or wrong. I was like, I'm not working, I'm investing the money on creating content, but at the same time, I have less weddings. So, 50-50, don't know what to do. But guess what? At the end of the 2017, we start to receive inquiry for 2018 that start to reflect the content I created in 2017. And, it's a process. Slowly, in 2018, more destination, 2019, even more destination. And actually, 2019 was the year where I was super excited about any clients that we booked, because it was fashionable, destination, fun. Like the clients that I realized that the clients that I want is the reflection of who we are. And once you understand that this is easy to create a content for what you want. Like you get another epiphany in life. You go like, wow, you don't have to think about who is my ideal client. It's just you and maybe the richer version of yourself. Let's say that. Let's be honest here. Like clients that go to get married in this amazing place that you always been dreaming to go, and now you're there to photograph. That's amazing. And 2020 COVID, but we took the year of COVID to I was scared, let's be honest. He was the guy that he would say like
it was time to invest again. We
invest again
in 2017, and it gave us the brand and that identity we're looking for. And 2020, what are you going to do? You can either sit around the sofa and waste your time, or you can be like, you know what, it's time to push it to the next level. And that's essentially what we did. When you talk about redeveloping the website, rebranding, that's where it was born out of.
Yeah.
It was, hey, we have this crazy idea that I think we're going to move back to Italy. And we did.
And we did.
And how do we position ourselves for that market so we're not just another fine art reportage photographer? And it was really embracing that we're not, Lilly especially, is just not she's just a very bold voice and very bold character. So how do we express that? And that's what this brand turned into. It's really an expression of her, and it's built around her personality. And during COVID, when we really built the persona of the brand around her.
Let's say during COVID, we say, okay, I want to go back to, sounds easy, but that's what we did. I create more content in Lake Como, because I say, okay, I know everything about Lake Como. I know that we can work here with the American clients because we love American. They're fun, they love the photos, they're fashionable. So it's like, why don't create more content here? Because in perspective of go back to live here, and that's what we did, and make the things easy for when we move here at the start of 2021 to book those weddings, because we have content taken on 2020. So for now, all I can say, content is a king, period. Like content.
Well, and I'm so tempted to ask you more about that, but I have a feeling we're going to touch on it with some of these kind of practical tips that you're going to share. So I really appreciate the backstory, and it definitely leaves me with questions, but we'll actually kind of get into, you mentioned to me that you've got kind of 5 takeaways, big ideas for our listeners regarding how to go about building a destination wedding photography business. I've got my notebook here. I'm going to take notes. Let's just dive right into it. Go ahead.
Bye, Vic.
Sure. You've got to know your brand and style. You've got to know what your business is about, who you're serving, how you serve them, and you have to have clarity on that. You can't pretend to scale and grow your business if you can't identify who you are and what makes you unique. I feel like, yes, you're a wedding photographer, but who are you serving, how are you serving them, how are you being their guide? If some of your listeners have read the famous book by Donald Miller, Story Brand, or Brand Story, I can't remember. Yeah. Story Brand. Yeah. I always get that backwards. But, the concept is so clever. It's that you are a guide serving your couple. So how can you be the authority figure for them? And when you start to understand what your brand really is, what your values are, what your clients are really looking for, yes, we're wedding photographers, but for a very, very specific and niche client, destination weddings for fashionable couples. So when someone lands on our website, comes across our brand, they know immediately if it's a right fit or not. And so it's really getting that marketing clarity and understanding what you're all about.
I stopped you here one second because, understand your style. It's hard. It's so hard because I speak for myself as an artist. I always see others, look at myself, never be satisfied. And, even doing this website, I was scared. And I told Vic, look, Vic, I know it's me, but I'm afraid that people, they're going to go away because it's too particular. And, having somebody that is giving the strength or the perspective from the outside, from your bubble, that is telling you, okay, this is good, this is not good, is fundamental. Because if we try, again, to do everything by ourselves, especially understand our style, it's very hard. I understand my style by asking to the couple what they like about my photography. And there I found the answer. Like, they keep saying to me, I love your photos because they look like on a Vogue magazine. They have this editorial touch.
That's it.
And I didn't get on myself. I think because for me it was normal.
I see. Yeah, because as you're talking about that, I'm looking at your site and it's absolutely stunning. I'm immediately taken by it because it is unique, and that, again, that kind of the layout and design of it is just so rich and beautiful. And then your work is beautiful as well. So it's interesting to me because I know a lot of photographers struggle with the kind of insecurities associated with putting themselves out there, and in this case, putting their brand out there, which is a reflection of who they feel they are. And yet this is just such an interesting example of the very thing, which is fear of putting a brand out there, putting yourself out there. And yet the reality is, on the other side of that is just something absolutely gorgeous. It's so hard to understand from the outside how you were afraid to put this out because it's so beautifully unique.
It is. It was. Now I go like, okay, I am this. I am this every day in what I wear and how I speak. And that's very important for everybody to understand. Be who you are, because this makes the difference with everybody else.
Yeah, I think internally inside our heads, we have insecurities, and what we do is we project that to the world, but no one really knows about those insecurities except for us. So we kind of have to fake it in our mind to become who we want to be, and then over time you do become that person. But just having the confidence, or maybe just the courage to be who you really are, and the world just just takes that for what it is, that the world doesn't know any better. And so
Well,
just living to be your best confident self.
yeah, it's good. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It reminds me actually of something that I heard recently, and I think I chatted with my last guest about this as well. Alex Hormozy is a very successful business owner, and he's kind of come out into the public eye a little bit more as of late with the content that he creates for business owners. But one of the things he talks about is the ability that we have to overcome self-doubt. It's really just simply in doing the thing. Like, we can stand in front of a mirror and recite these affirmations and, try to make ourselves feel better. But the practical way to address insecurities or fears is just to go do the thing. And if we need to course correct along the way, we can, but otherwise just do the thing over and over and over and over and over again. And the results will prove the effectiveness of that idea at the end of the day. So the fact that we sit back and just question and be afraid rather than going and doing and letting it play out as it will, it's a very illogical thing. I'm guilty of it certainly multiple times over, but I think this is a wonderful reminder. Your brand and website and the business that you've built is a great reminder for our listeners and the photography community that we need to take that step beyond the apprehension, the fear of putting ourselves out there. Go do the thing, because innate to that is a really wonderful opportunity. And by the way, Vic, you mentioned your brand position too. And I need to highlight this because we talk about brand position statements quite a bit here on the podcast. For everybody listening in, if you go to LILLY, LillyRed.it, you'll see this. Scroll down just a little bit, and that very clear and distinct brand position, destination wedding photography for fashionable couples. And I love the simplicity of that. It immediately enables the viewer of the website to know your brand and what it is that you're about. And of course, it plays very well to this first point. I'm pulling my notebook up here, which is the way that I framed what you just were describing is to know your brand and your clients, of course, associated with that, the target clients that are associated with that brand. But that's a really important first step. That kind of clarity and intention really does make a massive difference then in our ability to go then build that business. If we don't have clarity about what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to be, that confuses things and we can get very easily distracted. So I think this is a great first recommendation. Go ahead and take us to the second one, if you will.
Create the content. Like that's my thing. It sounds easy, but you have to create the content. And I don't say one time, I say multiple times. Like, you have to be determined. If you want to be a destination wedding photographer, you have to go out in the world and do it, because I see so many people that call themselves destination wedding photographer and then the content is local. So it's like, what you expect. You have to show to your clients that you are able to travel, you know how to travel, you are the expert of the guide for them. Like, we have everyday clients asking us everything about Italy too. So if you want, like, also another advice is choose one destination to start small. You don't have to be started okay, create content worldwide because I want to be based worldwide, I want to travel worldwide. Start easy and where it makes sense for you. I remember one time when I was in US, one person asked me, okay, how can I create, I want to travel to Italy, but I don't have the budget to go to Italy to create content. I told her, like, you go to this, like, there is this winery outside San Francisco with this Italian vibe. You can create something like this. Also, if you're not in Italy, Italy inspire even where you are. Like, there is no excuse. If you wanted to become a destination wedding photographer, you can start local where you are, inspired by where you want to go, or you have to travel. But you need to do it. You need to do constantly.
Content is king. Content can mean a lot of different things nowadays. When we had started, we were using style shoots as creating content. So it was a mock wedding put together with a model couple with designed elements, and that was our content. And it helps build portfolio for portfolio you don't have. But content can mean so many different things as well. Now we do, if we consider the philosophy of being a guide and authority figure, how else can we advise and guide our couples? Having lived in US, for being an American, living in the United States for many years, Lily being Italian, and now living in Italy, most of our couples are American. And the natural questions we get asked are, where do we go? What do we do? Where do we stay? How do we travel? And so these things, these are questions we always get from our couples. So they're telling us the information and content they want to see from us. So what started as just an email back to them grew into like a couple page document and list, which grew into a blog, which grew into videos, which grew into other forms of content. So we're able to serve and help those couples that are traveling from United States or around the world to Italy, and we're able to be a guide for them because we have so many resources and articles available now that we send to them or they find online through search. That just gives us more authority and more credibility over time.
Yeah, so like, compared to 2017, things changed so much, I feel like. And like destination wedding photographer, they are also guide, let's say, because people that don't know, not everybody knows how to travel. So you have to be in an expertise on that, create content, but also show the value of hiring you by giving advice and tips and where to eat, what to wear. Like nowadays you have to like just say, okay, I have a content there and nothing happened. That's why you need to provide something more.
Yeah, so like, that's us.
There you go.
Like, so we were just in Iceland, for example, 2 weeks ago. We had our vows renewal. We had tried to do it during COVID, but we couldn't do it. And 5-year vows renewal turned into 8-year vows renewal. But
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. It was
nice.
It was amazing.
It was amazing.
Well, our amazing videographer and photography team were amazing for us. We couldn't pronounce half the cities that we saw. We didn't know where anything was, but they had such phenomenal resources and expertise because they lived there and they experienced everything. And they took our hands and gave us such an amazing experience.
Yeah, this opened my eyes again into how important it is to hire somebody that knows where to go, the place. So they were a photographer, but somebody that we can trust also to go around with. So it's not just creating content, I feel like now, but also became the boss.
Yeah.
Became the boss of where you want to go as a destination.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And keep it start simple.
Well, and for anybody who may not be live streaming with us, while Vic and Lily were talking, I actually pulled up their blog. So if you go to lilyred.it, and I'll pull this back up again for those of you live streaming, and just go to the menu and click on blog, you'll be able to see exactly what they're talking about here. It's not just about taking pretty relevant pictures to the location that you want to be photographing in, but it's also about creating valuable content that will be helpful to those people that you want to work with. And this is, again, just a really wonderful example for our listeners. I do have one question regarding content before we go to the next point, though. For those, and by the way, Lily, I love that you highlighted the fact that a photographer can find places in their locale where they live that looks at least somewhat similar to the location that they want to photograph in. And start there and then actually go to the location after that. So that gives our listeners something, a smaller step that they can take if they want to. But I guess to kind of follow up on that, in order to be able to create content that is relevant to their potential client and of course the destination, do you have any other specific recommendations, especially for those photographers that are like, I don't have the cash to go to Italy to go, photograph a wedding there. I haven't been able to book a wedding in that particular place. How do they go about creating content that will enable them to at least move in that direction?
So I would say there's baby steps along the way. So creating content can come in different levels. Creating content can be as simple as having a similar enough background in a couple. That can be enough to get you started, to start building that portfolio and turning the wheel. Like the biggest thing is to start getting momentum. And so we have to imagine we have a big stone wheel in front of us and we're just trying to get it started, get it pushed. And it's always going to be the most challenging when you first start because you don't have any momentum. You don't have any portfolio to attract the couples you're trying to attract. Sure. So we can start small, We can start with bite-sized couple sessions. We can start with just table setups for 2. We can start with ceremony arches with a collaboration with a local vendor, and we can start to build in that direction, And I think that's the thing to take away is that we don't have to necessarily jump on an international flight to Italy, to a country maybe we've never been. We can start small in our backyard and start to build a portfolio that takes us further in that direction.
I love
Ask
that.
friends to come over for dinner. You cook a pasta. You take
Yeah.
a few photos, have fun, and you say like, okay, pasta, Italian night, love it. Like nowadays, there is so many ways you can do without flying. That makes sense. Like when we start, we don't have the money to fly over, so you have to start with you have to push your creativity
Yes.
and mix the creativity with in the business direction. So it's a mix of the two things that will drive you. I'm sure when you see we have this momentum. Okay, I love the photos. This is the Italian vibe. That's where I want to go. You get some reward that
Yeah.
is pushing you to the next
And some
step.
quick little cheats for that, and some quick little hacks. If you're wanting to go to a super expensive exclusive venue and it's just content you don't have or can't afford, go there for dinner, or go there for like a aperitivo, or go there just walk around the hotel and take pretty photos. Like you can cheat in creating content without
Totally.
spending the cash. If you do go on a holiday somewhere, and you do wind up bringing your camera, you can always photograph couples that are at the hotel if you're fearless enough to approach people.
It's a
If you
great
think
point.
of the mindset that you're traveling, and if you imagine yourself getting asked for photos along a trip, like, yeah, let's go do it. The quick 15-20 minutes is sometimes all you need, but you just have to be a bit fearless or foolish. I'm not sure which one, but maybe a little bit of both to do it.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't, I think part of the reason that as creatives and photographers and business owners that we have so much fear is that we sit there and process something over and over and over again over a period of time. So we build this thing up in our head and make it and again, I'm guilty of this myself multiple times over. We build it up in our head way bigger than it actually is. And in many cases, it's not even actually a problem to begin with. So the idea that we walk up to somebody and say, hey, you all are beautiful together. It's so cool to be able to see a couple who's so into each other. I'm here on vacation for a little bit in Italy, and I'd love the ability. I run a photography business. I'd love the opportunity to be able to photograph you, totally free. 20 minutes. I'll give you some 10 pictures to take away from it. Would you be willing to let me do that for you all?
Totally.
That
Sign
took
me
all
up.
of
You got me.
20 seconds to say, right? The world didn't explode. Nothing
Yeah,
crazy
no,
happened. I just
totally.
had a simple conversation with somebody. And I don't think, while I understand that some are a bit more shy than others, we also don't need to build that up too big in our head. We have to take initiative at some point if we're going to build a business, and doing something as simple as having a conversation like that is a great first step in that direction.
Yeah, and if you're super shy, and like I am shy to do something like that, I'm the person to prefer to go in a
Vic
venue.
looked over. Vic looked
No,
at you
he
like,
knows.
huh?
He knows. So I'm a person that I would love to go into one hotel that I would love to photograph one day, go to take an aperitivo and create content there, start to put out that I've been there, I love it, give my opinion, and I like to talk, so talk with the manager. I'm a photographer, I am this kind of direction, but there are
Yeah.
multiple ways you can do it.
Of course. But I think taking those steps and taking some initiative is a great idea. And so I love these recommendations, especially for those who may only be able to take a few smaller steps initially. I think these are some great recommendations. So going back to these talking points, number one, know your brand and, of course, your clients. Having that clarity will enable you to be able to more intentionally build a business. Number two is to create content. And I love that. In fact, I wrote it the exact way you said it, Lily, is create the content. We have to create content at the end of the day.
Yep.
We're getting ready to launch a business, actually, myself and my team, a new company. And we're getting ready to create probably 10x the amount of content that we've ever created before. And I have to kind of wrap my mind around it. But again, to our earlier conversation, in many cases, it's just about doing it. We build it up in our head and we're like, oh my goodness, I have to create, 50, 100, 3,000 pieces
Totally.
of content. But you
Yep.
just create a piece of content, and then you create another
Yeah.
piece of content, and then you create another piece of content, and it adds up over time, and then you have what you need. We just have to create the content. So I love that. It's very practical. Take
I
us to
love
number
that.
3, if you will.
I feel like a lot of photographers, their inherent job is to create photography and create content, but then everyone forgets that you have to use that content and market it. And that's probably the most important part of all of this, is not just to create pretty photos and amazing content for the sake of creating it. That's part of the process, but it's actually the first part. Now you need to develop your funnel. You need to be able to use that content along all pieces of the journey of your potential customer. And so it's realizing that your content needs to live in a funnel. So a funnel is like a marketing, it's literally a funnel, it's shaped like a funnel. And there's a couple different stages depending on which version you adhere to. But when we first think about how we're introduced to brands, we don't know about a brand for the first time until we come across it. And so that's the awareness stage. We're learning about a brand. We had just heard about it through a friend, through an advertisement, through a blog or something. And then we start to consider them. We start to learn about them. We start to understand if this brand can satisfy what I'm looking for. And as we continue the journey, the funnel gets it's a funnel, right? It gets smaller and smaller as you go down. So you're gonna have a lot of people in the top who learn about your brand. You're in the middle, you're gonna have people who are like, you know what, that wasn't for me. But for some visitors and some audience, people are like, oh, that's really interesting, caught my eye. And they continue down the funnel in the journey and the buying process. And then they make a decision. Are we gonna proceed with that photographer or not? So it's realizing that you're creating that content to attract the right type of client. And as they continue the journey in their marketing funnel, we use that content we've created to attract and to speak and to educate our potential customer.
That makes sense to me, but and I want to make sure that especially for newer photographers and sole proprietors, for example, when I think back to, I ran a wedding photography business for about 10 years, and here in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area where I live. But I never, and this is just the lack of education on my part, I never thought about marketing in the context of a funnel. It just wasn't something that I had gotten the education on. So I think it's great that you're bringing this up, and I want to give a little bit more context to our listeners about what that actually looks like. Can you maybe give a tangible example from your own business of what building that funnel? And by the way, I realize it's a huge topic. We could spend 2 or 3 episodes on this. Yeah. But maybe just a small example of tangible example, practical example of how you're building a funnel in your own business.
Sure, absolutely. So when we talk about the first stage of the funnel, the awareness, it's someone learning about us for the first time. So maybe they've come across our social media, maybe they've read a review online, maybe they typed into Google wedding photographers in Chattanooga, wedding photographers in San Francisco, and they've seen you, right? But typically when we buy items or make purchases, we're not buying off the first time we come across them. And so the awareness stage is where they meet you. So we meet Lily Red, we meet the website, we meet the Instagram, we meet the socials, and then someone decides, okay, I want to continue this journey and learn more. And when they're ready to learn more, that's when they start to read blog articles. Maybe we've offered a pop-up on our website and we're able to capture their email address through some valuable PDF or valuable content or valuable travel guide or something. And we can follow up with them via email. We can nurture them and give them some valuable information via email that maybe was a little more in-depth from the blog. And so we're starting to show them that, hey, guess what? We are experts in destination wedding photography. Hey, we are experts in Italy. Hey, we're still on top of your minds. And every time we're doing all of this, we're trying to drive them to an action, which is to fill out the inquiry form. So it's a lot of things going on here. But if you really think about the purpose of your website, the entire purpose of your website is get someone to click and fill out your inquiry form. And so each person is at a different level or a different stage in their journey. So some people are ready to have seen your photography and ready to jump right away to fill out the form. Other people need to be convinced. They want to make sure that you're the right fit. And other people are just learning about you. And so we're providing different levels of content and education and value to everyone at different levels and in different stages so that they fill out the form, right? So we have a great call to action.
And again, and I love that you're bringing this up because it's so practical and helpful. But I think a lot of photographers, when they think about a photography website, they don't think about all these things. In fact, even just something as simple as a call to action is still a relatively new conversation in the photography industry, honestly. Unless you hire a web designer who is looking to create a website that is relevant to the funnel that photography business needs to run, you're just not going to see that type of workflow. So I love the practicality of this. And for everybody listening in, take notes, pay attention, because this is really, really good that Vic just shared. Number one, it starts with awareness. If they don't know about your brand, outside of word of mouth, a lot of photographers, myself included, by the way, back when I was photographing, most of our business actually came from word of mouth. Clients, there was a wedding coordinator in town that we worked with quite a bit. We got really lucky in that we had these good connections that drove really, really good business. But especially in this day and age where there are so many photographers, and part of how we go about getting new business is potentially running ads. We create a certain amount of awareness. So we want to make that potential client aware of the fact that our brand even exists. That's the starting place. The second step then I wrote down, because this is something we're actually in the process of kind of building out for ourselves as well with both brands actually, but lead gen or engagement. So when we talk about lead generation, the idea that they would then go to your website and maybe fill out a form, or there might be some type of a freebie that you're giving away and you're able to get their email address at that point because they're interested in what it is that you have to offer. That lead gen process is kind of a next big important step. And then if I were to simplify it, and you tell me your thoughts on this, Vic, but then the third step would be that conversion effort, right? So they've developed a certain amount of awareness. Then there's the lead gen, the opportunity for some level of engagement with this potential client. But then ultimately you need to actually convert them to a paying client. What does that process look like for you all?
The call?
I would say the goal of the website is to get that form filled out. And once you have sometimes as you're lead nurturing, as you're going through these steps, you have to ask people to fill out the form at times. You have to make it really easy and obvious. So some things we do at the end of some of our really popular blogs, we'll have a little contact form there so people can make that decision right on the spot and fill out the form. Okay. and make that next step. The call to action for our contact button is big and bright in a different color. Why? Because naturally people gravitate towards it. It may sound silly, but these things are conversion optimizations. And what they do is it's a numbers game at some point. Like if you have 10 visitors, maybe one or two fills it out. And so you need to be having 100 and 1,000 visitors to really start to get some movement. And so asking people to take some action is to fill out the inquiry form. And once we've received the inquiry form, you kind of jump into
the conversation.
You jump into like an actual conversation with them. You kind of move on to that next step of selling yourself, but not in a negative way, in a way that you are the solution, you are the photographer they are looking for, and you're giving them the reassurance that they're going to make a great choice with you.
The call, I think the video call is one. Okay, it's love, it's true love. It's me, it's you, is covering what they need before they even ask. Show to them that the value of hiring Lily Red is not just a photographer, is more. More.
When Lily has those calls, it's not, hey, what's your name? Here's my packages. It's a much more genuine and personal conversation. Yeah. It's a conversation to learn about each other, share about the wedding day, the process, the flow, because likely this is their first and last wedding, and maybe they've attended a friend's wedding or a family member's wedding. But again, you're going to hear this over and over. Be the guide for them. Show them what it's like to work with you on the wedding day, how you take them from maybe super stressful day to something that just flows easy and naturally full of energy and love. And that's what the call is for, is to demonstrate that, we got you. Don't worry.
We got you. Yeah.
We got you.
I'm not just there to take photos, but to make your day smooth and the most beautiful day as possible.
Yeah, it's very easy as photographers and creatives to kind of get, I say in the US anyway, blinders on, overly focused on where I'm at right now, this thing. And usually a lot of that for photographers just kind of centers on them, their work, their photography, their editing style, what it is they want, the meals they expect at weddings, they're photographing, like all this stuff becomes about the photographer. And the reality at the end of the day is that we're there to serve the customer. And for anybody who hasn't read the book that's been alluded to multiple times now, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, I can't recommend it enough. It's truly not just powerful in and of itself, based as far as the context that the conversation that we're having now, but it's actually one of the most practical business books I've ever read. Most business books, it's like 20% good content that you can actually go apply, and the rest of it's just fluff. I think Building a Story Brand is the other way around. It's 80% applicable, actionable, practical content. Just loaded with really great information. So I can't recommend that enough for those listening in. So number one, know your brand, and of course your clients associated with that brand. Number two is to create the content. Number three, use that content then to go about the marketing process, utilizing a funnel like Vic was describing. Take us to number four, if you will.
Go for it.
Provide an epic client experience. Just be on top of everything you do, and have a process in place for taking your couple who is now super excited. They found their dream photographer in you. So now they want to continue that level of energy and excitement throughout the entire process until the wedding and even after. And so that means giving them a couple emails along the way that show your excitement. Give them some information about what it's like to get ready and prepare for the wedding day. So one thing we try to do is provide a client experience guide, give them some useful emails along the way, how to prepare for the wedding day.
I do even calls now.
Yeah.
I just did today a call with a bride that she want to share with me or ask me advice about what she should wear again, confirm what if rain, like to make sure that I hear her and don't worry, I'm here for you. Let's do this call. It's fun. So to make her sure that she get the best for us.
Yeah, you're not going to show up just on the wedding day.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm a photographer. Where do I go? That's not providing the level of trust and maybe the expectation they have set. Go above and beyond. Literally be that guide. So send your client the questionnaire to get some details for the wedding day so you can make a better photography timeline that makes the day flow smoother. Go scouting perhaps before the wedding or the day of, earlier before your service starts, to get familiar with the spaces, find the best spots, understand the light, like make yourself and put yourself in the best position you possibly can, and that's where you can just hit a home run every time.
It goes back to that idea you were talking about from Donald Miller's book about being the guide. If you actually frame yourself as that, the photography is almost kind of not an afterthought, but it's almost secondary to the fact that we as especially in photography business owners in 2023, where frankly speaking, it's relatively easy to take a pretty picture, right? So that no longer really differentiates us anymore. And it is going to continue to rely, that the success of a brand is going to continue to rely more and more on the experience that these premium photographers are creating. If you're going to charge a premium, make sure that you're actually being that client's guide, that you're creating an experience that blows them out of the water. It's so absolutely vital in 2023 and certainly moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things that I love to do is read some of the Google reviews that couples have left, and they tell you what you do really well. So if you read some of Lily's, it's always about energy. And
I give them all. I give all of the energy I have in my body, and I know they love it. Like I'm not the photographer, come and shut up, which is like a different way to do it. It's not right or wrong.
Sure.
But what they love, like they love the energy that they give to them, and they constantly say to me at the end of the wedding day. And I told them, like, wait to see the photos. No, we are already happy about your energy. Thank you.
That's it.
It's like your couple.
So true, though.
How crazy.
No, but I can speak from personal experience. I don't know how many times clients or friends and family of the clients at a wedding day said that very thing. You guys are incredible. You're incredible photographers. And they haven't seen pictures. It was a big experience that we're creating. But Lily, I have to highlight this so-called energy that you bring. I mean, to the conversation today, I'm certainly seeing it already. But this is really, really important, I think, for photographers listening in, because a lot of people will say that they're introverts, and so they tend to be a bit quiet and they don't bring a lot of energy to the picture. From personal experience, I can say that ability to be able to bring energy to an interaction with a client or potential client can be learned, by the way. So everybody, if you're willing to kind of buy into that notion and make the effort, put the time and effort and energy into learning how to brighten up and bring this kind of energy, it's amazing what happens to the person on the other side of the camera. They may be showing up nervous, unsure.
Yeah.
And you
totally.
come in with the warmth again and energy that you've brought to this conversation today. You bring that to a client. They're nervous about being in front of the camera. You're excited. You're telling them how great they look. Oh my goodness, that's incredible. Why don't you do this? This looks really, really good. They'll start to feed off of that energy and come alive. And the pictures are that much better for it.
And they love that, and they can, like, that can be one point also why they choose you between 5 people, a similar style and similar way to be. Like, they go like, okay, I go to Lilly because she brings energy. It's so important. It's so important. Bring the energy because it's their wedding day. They have multiple things going on. They're not a lot of things going on a wedding day. So if you bring your photography services, is amazing. Your photos are great, amazing too, but also your energy, like it's a win-win.
Yeah,
Love
it
it.
goes back to that client experience. There's some photographers maybe don't have the energy, but what you can also do is think about how you can protect and guide that couple, so you can give them that safe space. Like you are that person that they trust and can come to for like that common serenity, if that's what they need on their wedding day as well. Maybe
Yeah,
they're more
fair.
intimate, romantic, a little bit shy. It's just about being able to read your couple and be able to give them what they need. Maybe there's family pressures, maybe there's something going on behind the scenes of the wedding, but give them that availability of safe space, and that's how you protect their intimacy.
Love it. I will leave that alone. I would keep going there because I think it's such an important conversation. But I know that we've kind of gone a little bit long here. So let me ask for, I think, point number 5. 4 was provide an epic client experience, and I love the how you expounded on that. But take us to the last, number 5.
The point number 5 is like a lesson in, you don't have to be perfect. Don't chase perfection, because it doesn't exist, and it's going to stop you from doing a lot of things that you just need to get started with. Like all of our big projects and dreams and goals are actually just small steps along the way. So don't be afraid to just go, iterate, improve, repeat, and do it again. Like take the small steps, because the big steps seem daunting, because they are. But when you break the big task into small little bite-sized steps you can do each day, you're going to be surprised at the progress you're going to make over time. Like we're not trying to build a super destination wedding photography business in 6 months or 3 months, but you can take the steps to build like a really solid foundation, day in and day out. And like 10 times out of 10, I would chase the discipline to keep doing it over the grand vision,
Consistency.
Consistency.
It's something that I'm very lack or used to. Now I'm getting a little bit better, but you have a goal in mind, and then okay, I can do it, and then the day after I want to do something else, or this doesn't work, and you get lost, and why am I doing it? Like consistency.
That's it. There's a quote that occasionally I've posted on social, which is just small steps, consistently. That's it, right? It's just small steps consistently. It really is amazing how that can create a snowball effect. It builds and builds and builds and turns into a really great thing. It's like creating the content. It became overwhelming to think about, I need to create this number of pieces of social media content and all these pictures for my website. I need to update this and edit that. As you were pointing out, Vic, that project seems massive. But then when I break that down into smaller steps, and I just take those small steps consistently, it turns into something really, really great, and turns into that we are able to accomplish, I should say, the bigger project at the end of the day, just by taking those small steps consistently. So I very much relate to you, Lily, because I'm a pretty emotional guy myself, and it's very easy to kind of ride, the roller coaster of emotions. And some days I feel like it, and then I get distracted by something else. I'm going to go do this. But small steps consistently. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And
I'm sure your team keeps you on the ground.
Yes, they do. That's a great way to put it. Well, this has been such a really great practical conversation. And I love that you all bring both the artistic perspective as well as the business perspective. You didn't ask me to do this, but I want to share kind of the education side of your business as well, because you already brought so much practical information here within an hour or less. Will you share just a little bit with our listeners about the education that you do offer to photographers?
Sure. We made a strong point going forward to really focus on education for photographers. So as we kind of pivot, I don't want to say stop weddings, but as we kind of limit the number of weddings we take, it gives us the opportunity to educate other photographers. So we are working on our destination ticket to wedding photography flagship course, which will be released later this year. And it kind of walks through all different aspects of building a business specifically for destination weddings. We talk about brand values. We talk about how to create that dream content. We build out that marketing funnel, so we use that content and are able to attract potential customers. We talk about that client experience, and we talk about practically how to travel and how to live 150 days on a plane because that was our last year. And so that's kind of our go-to course. But in the meantime, working on so many other things, posing and directing for fashion,
guide blogs,
blogs.
yeah, this is interesting because we're taking less wedding to focus on teaching.
Yeah, so we share it on Lily
sharing.
Red Academy for some of the bite-sized pieces of content, and also on Elizabeth the Lily Red. Check it out.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm going to actually pull that up here really quick for those of you listening in. If you do go to lillyred.it, lillyred.it, click on the little menu on the right-hand side, click on Academy, and you'll see kind of that introductory information on the education that Vic and Lily are offering. Make sure you go take advantage. There's some freebies even that you can take advantage over there. Make sure that you go check that out at lillyred.it. Well, guys, this has truly been, I just love the simple practicality of our conversation for today. And I know there's a lot of takeaways for our listeners. Thank you so much for making time for all of us. Truly, truly appreciate it.
Of course. Grazie. Thank you.
Thank you.